YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We've got something all new from Arrows. Look at this. It's got LEDs. It doesn't have flaps. It has rock hard tires, but it has a beautiful 4-bladed prop. Drop tanks that are super detailed. Removable landing gear, except for the tail wheel. That one's stuck. And a canopy. We didn't even put on the scale detail. Water-based decals. We did put on the decals on the prop. But just real quick, full disclosure, be careful, no throttle cut. So that can happen. I did not do that on accident. Or I didn't do that on purpose. So guys, when you get this thing, get ready for some excitement. Oh, yeah, one more thing. We're gonna save your plane right now. Because if you want this thing to not fly like crap, don't put it in the red one like they told you to. Put it in the blue one. That would be the 1, 2, 3 hole, third hole in. Otherwise, this thing will be porpoisey and terrible in the ready to fly configuration. Now, if you're setting it up as a plug and fly and you're depending on the vector, then my suggestion to you is just take the vector out and get a 630 and be done with it. You'll have better luck. We'll show you now. Wind's coming out of all directions. Let's see if we can get this thing on its mains. Remember, P factor is a big factor, so we're gonna be using a lot of rudder. Woo, woo, woo! As you can see, you'll wanna get it going down the runway. There is stabilizer. Here we go. On the mains, there we go. Maybe that's because the wind is so crosswind. Okay, so now that we're flying, we'll show you what it does. And it does what it does pretty good, which is be crazy. And the vector does help to stabilize the flight envelope a little bit. But I'm gonna just warn you about this. If you're expecting AS3X safe type performance, you're gonna be disappointed because this thing is definitely a flyer, but you better be a pretty good pilot because you're gonna have to be on your toes to keep in front of it. Also, my suggestion is don't fly a small plane like this in the wind. It's got plenty of power to penetrate the wind, but it's not a very good experience, especially in the ready to fly. There's no expo. I gotta say the elevator feels a million times better. And probably what we're gonna do is we're gonna end up showing our experience to a certain extent. I'm not sure how much or if we're gonna show all of it or what, but if this flight goes well, we may end up disregarding other flights because they were so rough around the edges, guys. I gotta say, I had something I wanted to say, but I'm not gonna say it because it's kind of mean-hearted, mean-spirited. So Arrows, as usual, has come out with a reasonably good product. It's actually really stout. The foam is gorgeous. It is very attractive looking up close or from afar. And you can't be lost on that, guys. Just because a plane is beautiful does not mean it's gonna fly great. And also the 4-bladed prop, that's not lost on me either because we just had yesterday another release that had a 2-bladed prop, but you're gonna notice the difference in flight. And by the way, this is after having moved, that's after having moved the hole on the elevator. And I just, you know, I feel like I'm constantly doing crazy U-turns with this plane because there's just like almost, by the time you give it input, it's just there. It just does what you want, which is kind of ironic. I was just thinking about Two Brothers. He'll probably not even have to increase the throws. Ha! Okay, upside down flight performance is fine. You got tons of authority. And that's one thing, even with that lesser stroke on the elevator, you're gonna be fine because you just have enough, okay? That's with the inner hole, guys. You could almost go to the next hole in if you wanted to drop the rates, so to speak, because there aren't a high-low rate switch on this transmitter, okay? And by the way, this transmitter, I'm not trying to beat it up, but I'm gonna just tell you this. If you want a better experience, all you have to do is get this in the plug and play, and you're gonna find that it is a pretty good, enjoyable experience, but you're gonna have a little bit more money tied up in it, in that you have to buy a more expensive transmitter, and you have to buy a more expensive receiver. You know, of course, for a lot of us, you've already got that. And I'm gonna tell you this, if you're trying to fly this, and you aren't one of the people, geez, that crosswind is gonna make this landing terrible. You feel that wind?
I see it, yeah.
Okay, so guys, also auto leveling, let's just show that in case I kill it. So auto leveling is on now. So this is via the Vector, not to be confused with the Reflex or AS3X and Safe. When you let go, it automatically levels, but you do have to still fly the plane. I'm gonna show you the limits up, limits down. There's limits up for bank angle or pitch angle, limit down, limit up, limit down. Now I'm gonna show you the roll angles once I get to a better angle. By the way, the LEDs are huge. Look at that. Limited roll, left, okay? Now the other thing is if you're having trouble landing, then what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to basically not fly on a terribly windy day. That's just not a good idea for a new plane. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care how good of a pilot you are. Fly on a calm day if you can. But we end up in these ridiculous deadlines. Okay, so let's just try this. Holy cow. That was my best landing. You wanna know why? Because I just threw pride to the side and I took it in auto leveling. This is ridiculous. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it. Let's try this in regular stabilized mode. And I gotta say, it's worm central. We had rain all day yesterday. Okay, getting on the mains. There we go. Actually, a little better takeoff there. But as you can see, this airplane needs flaps. And you know what? The recent release from the competitive offering, I really wish it would have had flaps too. Now, no flaps, no retracts, no LEDs, two-bladed prop from the recent offering, but a little bit bigger and a lot better flying, a lot better flying, okay guys? So I'm just gonna say right now, if you guys are here at Brian Phillips RC for the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. Manufacturers, if you're listening, if you do these one-day pissing matches for releases, then you're gonna get side-by-side comparisons. We don't oftentimes do that, but we will when it's this egregiously close, okay?
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. Everybody is gonna look, everybody is gonna see, and we are just gonna respond to what our audience wants to hear, and that is, how does this compare to the one we just saw yesterday? Okay, now I am gonna tell you this, a P-51 has a good flight envelope, but you gotta keep it moving, okay? The one worst P-51 we've probably ever flown would have been, well, actually, you know, I take it back, it's not the 750 millimeter from Volantix, which is ironic because we really enjoy the Volantix stuff. The small 400s are great.
And the 500s.
And the 500s that they just recently started doing with the brushless motors are great too. But the thing is, we had some from Top RC that were just, right?
Yes.
They were terrible, terrible in the 500s.
In
the 400,
the 402 or whatever.
The 402? No, the 402s were okay. It was the 500s that were terrible, wasn't it?
No.
Or the 450s. It was 450s.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, it was a weird in-between size. The 400s have always been reasonably okay. But what I'm getting at is this, guys. This plane deserves flaps, because if you had flaps, you could slow it down and then you could bring it in for greasy landings.
So here's the thing I don't understand.
Okay, so this just stabilized. There we go.
That wasn't bad.
No, that wasn't terrible. It was probably the best landing we've had with this plane. But I'm gonna tell you, here's my concerns. We're so dang close to perfection. Can we just get perfection for once? Because I'm telling you, all it's gonna take is better tuning on the vector or better hole placement. Camera crew. Also, there is no high-low rates that I can figure out on this. It looks like reverse and normal is the only thing that we have. And this is just, I mean, I'm not trying to bash FlySky. There's nothing wrong with it. You get a $75 transmitter and receiver combo. That's cheap, guys.
Right.
But if it doesn't do the job, it's not okay. Now, in an airplane with a reflex, I think you can get the flight performance you need because you have a little bit of tunability if you go reflex V3. But I don't want to hook up a computer. I don't want to dink with that crap. I want to set it up on my transmitter, and I want it to be a good experience. Now, by the way, I'm going to put my arm on this. You need to keep Johnny on the spot there. So first of all, our battery is way up front. Let's talk about removability real quick. We'll just do a quick sorties. It's wet, so we're not going to get 2 flights probably. These can come off, and they are labeled right and left. They are absolutely fantastic looking. And yes, they do send water decals for all this. We just chose not to do it because we were afraid this thing was going to be a giant turd. Yeah, I said that out loud.
It is the lollipop.
A giant turd. The pun is not lost on most of you, I'm sure, Al. But at the end of the day, this plane is so close to perfection, but after having ripped out the gear on basically, well, it's 2 of 2 flights, but we had multiple landings, I think, on our first flight. And rock hard tires, beautiful, detailed, springy? No, because the plastic makes it rock hard. You only get a pivot axis and it's not enough. And so what happens is it yanks this out. 750 millimeter P-51 from Volantix had suffered so bad from that, you would rip off the landing gears on a greasy landing, okay? This one's not near that aggressive. You can get them in okay. But I'm just gonna tell you this, it's probably gonna look a lot better this way. Hand launch is gonna be a lot easier with the auto leveling. So this is AS3X-like stabilization. This is off. You have an off setting if you want it. And then this is auto leveling, okay? Auto leveling is where you wanna be. You have to hold it back here because there's not really a safe way to do it otherwise. And then you're gonna move the stick either with your mouth or your thumb, and then you can go like this. Now you can use your mouth to control this, but you don't need to do that. All you need to do, find the wind, like with a windsock for instance, throw it hard at an upward angle about like this, because full throttle, this thing will suck straight up in the air, okay? Here we go. There you go. Auto leveling is gonna take care of it. And then once you get your feet under you, and you're where you want to be for your filming or whatever it is you're doing, then you can basically come out of it. Now, I gotta say, my complaint with this plane is the same complaint that I have with the 400mm Warbirds. It's not a bad flying experience if you do it in the right conditions. But I'm gonna tell you this, it feels like you're forcing, that's the first crash we had. It slipped out from under me.
Oh.
I was in auto leveling. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I put it back to the stabilized mode, just so I don't forget. That's the first crash we had. That might have been pilot induced because of the vector change in the wind. I was flying with the wind, I went in and I think I might have stalled it, okay? So I'm not trying to blame the plane here, but it is possible the plane caused that, okay? And it looks like we broke our beautiful four-bladed prop. I would be amazed if we didn't, because I can see the prop is pointed down toward the ground, and we broke the spinner. So, my complaint, as I was explaining, yep, there's one of the props over by the edge. Yep, it's pretty much done for. So,
See the spinner.
here's the thing, guys. Yeah, we complained about the spinner. Oh, did you find it?
I found it.
Okay.
It is just the pop off. It's actually not broken.
Oh, really? Okay, so here's the thing. This beautiful four-bladed prop is probably my favorite part of this plane. Seriously. Okay, hold this, please. I'm gonna take the spinner back. Now, you can't fly this with 3, and this thing is done, okay? This spinner this prop is done. It's too bad because this is a glorious design with the exception of just give us a milled, tapped screw hole. I don't like these pop on because they break really easy, okay? Especially if you're doing it in the cold. I'm just gonna break this if it'll break. I don't think I'm gonna get so lucky as to be able to break it. If I can, great. Yep, it's not gonna break for me. I was just gonna say, if you're ever at the flying field and this happens to you, just pop off the opposite prop. This thing will go in the air and it'll fly, but you do have to break it at the same spot, okay? So in this case, we've got this thinner area that's hidden inside the spinner, okay? So my apologies for crashing and putting it down like that. It does belly land, but look how much damage it sustained. I mean, granted, it's asphalt and concrete, it's gonna get damaged, and that's not really the plane's fault. That was my fault. When you're flying crosswind and you turn like this, guess what happens? The ground speed doesn't really matter to an airplane, but the airspeed does. And so, because we're on the ground, many times pilots make the mistake of applying ground speed to an aircraft. The aircraft was barely moving in that turn. I should have got on it because I knew I was gonna be turning and I was downwind at the point where I would have been most likely to stall, and that's exactly what happened. Mistake on the pilot's part does not necessarily constitute a problem on the plane's part, but I am gonna say this. This plane has a few problems, okay? Namely, that made a huge improvement, guys. I gotta say, move that in if you get the ready to fly and you put it in this, you're gonna be amazed at how terrible it is there and how much better it is here. Big improvement. Now, the roll axis is still way too much. You could probably go in one on each of these. Show them that. We're on the third hole out. You could go to the second hole out, okay? Or you could take this from the outside hole and move it down to the inside hole, which would give you a similar thing if it's a little easier for you to do. Geometrically, it's gonna be similar, okay? Same thing here. If you want even less, you can go in one more hole. You're gonna get more precision, but you're gonna have lower maximum output, okay? We preach big time about not doing that, but that's because we set up programmable transmitters. And when you bring into the world of programmable transmitters with sophisticated auto leveling, sophisticated stabilization, and that's not to say that the vector is not sophisticated, it's more to say that we have better control over the sophistication and the application therein to the control surfaces. That vector is a very basic module. It does do the job, it does auto level the aircraft, It's kind of a little bit wonk on the way it does it, and it makes it fly like a big toy, okay? Not a hobby grade feeling experience. However, you can come out of that mode, and with the stabilization and with calm, you could probably have a pretty good flight experience. But I'm gonna tell you this, the flight experience on the competitive offering was way better. Not a little better, it was considerably better. And you guys can probably tell from the footage. Now, that's not to bash Arrows, because they have made an absolutely incredibly beautiful plane that's now screwed up because of a relatively simple mistake. And by the way, I was in auto leveling. So just to remind you, auto leveling does not solve all your problems.
Right.
Flying is still hard, and you can still make mistakes, okay? You gotta take it with a grin. And in this case, I'm sort of kicking myself because I shouldn't have made that mistake, but it was definitely a pilot error, I believe, on this, in combination with the fact that if I would have just been in the power, it would have been fine, okay?
And the wind is very shifty this morning.
It's shifty, but it was where it was. I knew what I was doing, I just made a mistake. It was basically an oversight, let's call it. But that being said, I'm still gonna give blame where the blame is due, and I'm gonna tell you where the blame is due. They made a beautiful plane that's limited, okay? What can you do about it? You know, it's 850 millimeters. It's never gonna be everything to everybody. I'm still waiting for somebody that says, hey, let's not go 95%, let's go 100%. And I just don't understand why it's so, I mean, I kind of do understand why it's so hard, because they're trying to hit a price point. They're trying to bring it to a market where it's sellable. If you made a 100% plane, it'd probably cost like what a Cavin costs in the US. But that being said, this plane here is gorgeous. It's got a good stiff body to it. If you want, you could probably cut in some beautiful flaps. I mean, the rod for the support is here. So you could cut those in, one servo here, and you could really improve the flight envelope drastically, because you could put in some bigger flaps, okay? Big flaps on a P-51 this size will help you slow it down. And then if you had a better receiver, or not necessarily a better receiver, there's nothing wrong with this receiver inherently. It's that you don't have any way to adjust, and the things that we have on AS3X Plus is just huge. Yep. So my suggestion is, if you're an aircraft aficionado, an RC geek like me, sorry RC geek, Chris, I didn't mean to steal your trademark name, but if you're a geek like me, if you're a nerd like me, sorry, there you go, Chris. Chris Wolf, RC geek, shout out to him. My suggestion is just get the plug and play, okay? That's what you need to do. Because this is not suitable for a beginner anyway.
I was just gonna ask.
It just isn't. If you're a beginner and you're flying this in dead calm with like a gigantic open environment, maybe. The LEDs help a lot with visibility, but that doesn't make muscle memory here.
Right.
Okay, muscle memory in your thumbs, skill and experience is what you need to fly a smaller plane. And guess what? The Ultra Micro is easy to fly.
Yeah.
It's still easier to crash, admittedly. And here's what I'm gonna tell you. The mothership, FMS, makes Arrows, okay? They also make the 1.2 for the competitive offering. And I think the 1.2 is where it's at, guys. It's incredibly well done. It does all the things that both of these size classes do. And it's only a few bucks more, guys. Just get the few bucks more.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get the competitive offering and fly it on a DXS. And if you do, you're gonna be flying a crappy experience.
I feel like,
in my opinion.
and in my not flying, but watching lots and lots of flying experience, a P-51, unless it's a 400 millimeter warbird that you like literally hardly can break.
Which is a throwaway toy.
A P-51 is not a beginner plane.
It kind of isn't. But here's the thing. You can cheat the wing size, you can cheat the shape of the wing to make it fly slower and easier. But I'm gonna tell you this thing has scale lines. It's gorgeous.
Yes.
They did an awesome job making this look good. If it doesn't look good, I'm not interested in an RC hobby, okay? Because I'm a scale guy, that's what I like. But I'm gonna tell you this thing is called a lollipop for a reason. So get yours today if you want. Here's the thing, guys. At the end of the day, we're out to protect you from manufacturers that wanna pull the rug over or pull the wool over your eyes.
Yep.
I don't know that they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, because I haven't heard them talking a lot about beginner, first time aircraft yet, which I'm sure that's soon to happen as soon as our competitors put their stuff on YouTube.
But it comes in a ready to fly, which is what
But that doesn't necessarily mean it's for a beginner, okay? But I'm gonna just tell you this, guys. If you want a hobby grade experience, you're gonna have to spend a little bit more. And a 630 is not free, okay? So add $100 to the price tag, and you already had to have the transmitter, you can get the battery yourself or just use one of your 1300 3Ss that you've already got lying around from another plane.
Yeah.
Do not try to put a 2200 in this. Ugh, it's gonna be so terrible. It's gonna be so heavy.
I don't think it'll fit.
I mean, to be honest with you, I kind of wish I could stick a smaller battery in there because the flight times are pretty good on this.
Yeah.
So smaller battery might make it hard to get the CG right though. Which, by the way, you could also take note, other manufacturers, CG's marked. It's kind of nice. Still didn't stop me from crashing and screwing up what was a absolutely gorgeous plane.
Watch your throttle.
Yeah, and then also throttle cut. Why do we not have a throttle cut, guys? Just give us a throttle cut. It's a safety issue. Fly Sky, if you're listening, put a throttle cut in, okay? It's just a safety issue. We should be doing this stuff, guys.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Especially on beginner
It's not a new
planes.
thing to have a throttle cut or a throttle hold on a helicopter, okay? It should just be customary, okay? So complaints, thoughts, interest level, those are what I have on this, what is a really good college try from Arrows. And admittedly, I think what's happening, our experience with Arrows used to be phenomenal because the support was phenomenal. And so in our experience, and this is me trying to be diplomatic, when you lose features, you lose value. When you lose value, the price has to come down to meet it. They haven't done that. So what do we call that in the business world? That's a self-fulfilling prophecy, okay? Just put FMS on there and be done with it. Why do you even have the brand? You did what you wanted to do. Drive more sales direct. But then in doing so, you also stopped one of your largest customers' relationship. I just don't understand. Anyway, that's too much inside baseball for this channel. But let's just say, and we do a lot of inside baseball here. So at the end of the day, if you guys want a good experience, you know which one it's gonna be. I don't have to tell you out loud because we do want everybody to succeed. And this might be right for you. But you gotta be a good pilot. You don't wanna be getting it ready to fly, first of all. And then thirdly, if you're not flying at a FRIA and you wanna go fly this at the park and stuff, you still gotta deal with stupid remote ID modules if you wanna be fully compliant. For 35 bucks, you can get a Ruco one. You can comply, you can plop that little sucker in here. You don't have to get the Sky module that's like 100 bucks. And remember, the 100 bucks was a good deal when it came out, but now there's been time for the market to catch up with the idiocy of the FAA. So we have options. Some of the options are smaller, similarly light. Actually, the Sky is still lighter. You get more GPS features, you get more telemetric feedback from your telemetry equipped programmable transmitter. But at the end of the day, if you're just trying to be compliant, just get the Ruco, slap that sucker in your tool bag, turn it on once in a while, make it look real, comply or don't. We really don't care what you do. It doesn't hurt us unless there's a lot of us that get in trouble and it gives a black eye to the hobby, okay? Because it's already a black eye, the fact that these idiots in Washington can't understand that we're not trying to hurt anybody with our toy airplanes. These aren't drones. We don't strap anything onto them, okay? We're not trying to like attack people in tanks in Ukraine, okay? This is a toy airplane. It's got auto leveling. It won't fly 7,000 miles and do some damage, okay? Bad actors ain't gonna put a remote ID in anyway, you morons.
Yeah.
Somebody in Washington have some common sense for once, okay? So that being said, I'm getting off the soapbox and I'm getting back into my reality. If you like this plane, buy it from the links, help support Brian Phillips RC. Bringing truth is expensive for us, okay? There's others that will lie about how great this plane is, okay? Get ready for it, brace yourself. It's happening, it's gonna happen. It's probably already happened at the same time we did this, okay? So when you see it, you can smell it from a mile away. We're telling the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. When we're not excited about something, we try to check our enthusiasm or curb our enthusiasm within the budget of an airplane. If it's a cheap airplane, we're not gonna treat it like a $700 plane. If it's a $700 plane, we're not gonna treat it like a $100 plane. We have higher expectations. Yeah. So on this, because it's inexpensive, and it's so close to being good, then I'm gonna come down kind of hard on it because Arrows has some recovery to make. And right now, they're losing. So that being said, if you want to support us, all you need to do is check the links in the video description below. No, I'm not crying about this. The wind is cold. It's making tears come up. But I am sad that Arrows did not pull out a victory. Because it's like when you have a team, like let's say you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan, and you go and play, who do we play? Was that Michigan?
No, Wisconsin.
No, well, it was pretty bad.
I mean, they're all pretty bad.
Well, there's some that are pretty bad.
Yeah.
And let's say that you want something to change. Like seasons later, there's an adjustment made. And you guys can relate if you're loyal football fans. You're just watching, and then all of a sudden, halftime comes and your coach takes a knee instead of going for 3 points. And then you lose by 2 or 3. That's exactly what's happening to Arrows. It's like, Arrows, goes! The cheerleaders are screaming, everybody's excited. There's beer being sold everywhere in the stadium. Everybody's having a terrible time because you're losing. And then you leave dejected and empty inside. And you think, why am I so loyal to this team that lets me down? That's where we are. Oh, camera crew gave me the wave. So if you want to support us, you can buy this thing. Now, I know there's a lot of you that will still buy this thing, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying you should, but you just have to narrow your audience of buyers by so much by the time you take into consideration all the considerations we have on this plane, okay? So when you do buy from the links in the video description below. Remember, it's expensive for us to tell the truth, and we do tell the truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth, and the competitors will lie to you, point blank. So check it out, links down below. If you want to get the ready to fly, I would not recommend it. The only thing I would recommend is if you can't get a battery in 3S1300 that you like, that would work in here. Okay, keep in mind the size is pretty standard on this pack. You can use a Venom pack.
We'll link
you can
to
use
a couple of China Hobby
Smart,
Line.
Yeah,
we'll link to a couple of different
China Hobby Line. Yeah, there's different options.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you're getting the plug and play, they call it plug and play, not plug and fly, then you'll be fine. Get yourself a 630, pull out the Vector. The Vector is okay, but it's just not okay enough, okay? Yeah. Set it up like you've seen us do before. If you really want the best experience, move that in one hole. That will make a big deal. You can then tame. You don't even really need to move that in one hole if you use an AS3X. You can just kick up your gains a little bit higher. And then inboard flaps would make this thing glorious. Obviously, you're not going to be adding retracts to this thing, so it's just going to be what it is. But I'm going to leave the gear on if this thing flies good. I'm just going to fly it wheels up, wheels down all the time because it's got enough rudder authority, which is, by the way, an improvement over the 1100 millimeter from Arrows. Because we had all sorts of problems with the P factor and wanting to pull these things off the runway. So lots of things improved, but just still inches from the touchdown. And no, we didn't even get a replay. Okay, so other ways to support us, YouTube super thanks, one-time donations, YouTube members, thanks for being one if you want to be a monthly supporter, and then Patreon for monthly support, as well as PayPal if you just want none of that nonsense, if you want to just give us gifts. Remember, we're friends and family, otherwise they charge a bunch of fees and it's ridiculous, but all the rest of them do too, so whatever trips your trigger, we're happy to be on the recipient end of that. But we still firmly believe, and say this every time, if you want to help us buy your own lolly poop or whatever it is we're marketing at a particular time, remember, and I use that term loosely, marketing, we're just telling all about our experience. It doesn't mean that you couldn't have a glorious experience at this plane. But our experience was less than stellar, okay? And if you want to see more, what do you think? Are we going to show the rest?
I think we'll probably show at least the one we did yesterday.
Yeah, but we're not going to do all three because the third one, I was just pissed on that one because we're up against the deadline that has basically put this into a corner where it's like really not where it's designed to fly, okay? Flying in this type of wind is just, to me, I would not fly a small plane like this in this wind. I wouldn't come out here and think, oh, I want to fly that 850 millimeter P-51. I'd be like, give me something a little bigger that's going to penetrate the winds, can do a little better. Or I would fly something like incredibly fast that doesn't care about the wind, or a helicopter that would cut the wind, okay?
Yep,
so these things all come into consideration. Granted, it's not fall in China. China, you cheat on the weather. Quit cheating on the weather. It's fall here. You need to start respecting America and the fall because we lose our leaves and it gets windy.
And it's windy and cold and dark.
In central Iowa. And yeah, we all stupidly set our clocks forward like, let's make it worse. Speaking of Washington. All right, more to come. Thanks for watching, guys. Unboxed Build radio setup is ready, but just remember we don't mention this. And I would say at a bare minimum, if you get this, stick it in that hole instead. She's not gonna squeal. Do it. Come back for more. Thanks. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this beautiful new 850 millimeter P-51. And yes, we were all definitely needing a small P-51 right now. And this thing might meet your fancy. We got ours in a ready to fly package. Beautiful 4-bladed prop. This is from Arrows. It's the Lollipop livery. And yes, this does have the Vector. And as you can see, it also has super detailed drop tanks. They are removable, as well as the landing gear, but just be careful when you do lay this thing down. Don't do it like me and try to hit the throttle, because there is no throttle cut. Stabilizer is in the up position on ours, off, and auto leveling. So we're gonna start off and stabilized, and there is a strong wind from this side to that. Here we go. 3-wheeled, watch for P factor, a little bit of rudder, hard on the rudder, and there it is, in the air. Doing just fine. You guys notice how much it veered. Woo! This thing gets knocked around like crazy. The Vector is definitely going to help solidify the flight performance, and look at those bright LEDs, guys. Bright LEDs are what we want. It's what we desire. Woo! So I gotta say something about this. This plane is loose. It feels way looser than I want it to feel. And that's because the transmitter is basically not going to give you any expo whatsoever. There is no high-low rates, and if there is, it's the silk screen is so unreadable. I don't know how to tell what it's supposed to be saying. Now, that being said, tons of every control surface authority is what I desire, but I desire it in a controllable, bite-sized piece, and that's where Expo will resolve your conflict. Here's my take on this plane after flying it for 30 seconds. It needs a more sophisticated auto leveling and gyro system in order to take full advantage of the flight envelope, which is limited because of its size. Remember, the air molecules are the same size even as the planes get smaller. So I just want to tell you something. If you were to take the flight performance of this compared to an ultra micro, in this current condition, as a ready to fly, you would be like, it's garbage. I'm gonna tell you this, it's not garbage. It's just that the receiver is gonna make it fly like it doesn't have stabilization. But watch this, guys. The stabilizer's on, watch this. Stabilizer's now off. Now it's gonna be all over the place because this plane is basically going to just jostle and jank every direction. You see that? That's stabilizer off. The Vector makes a big difference. It's very windy right now. Okay, now it's back on. It's not auto leveling yet. I'll show you auto leveling next. So if you're brand new to the hobby and you want a plane that's going to fly really good, you got to remember, size matters. And also, because this plane tends to fly a little bit nose heavy, I think that's part of what we're fighting. So if you had a little bit more sophisticated stabilizer, it would help a lot. So how do you fix it? You take this plane, you buy it, you go ahead and get the plug and fly, that's full speed pass. And then you put in a 630 and you sacrifice the Vector to the RC gods and use it in another application where it's a little bit better suited, like a high wing trainer or something that's slower. Just keep in mind, you do have enough channels on this to add flaps, but they're not gonna be coordinated with an elevator correction or any of that. So when and if you decide to get this, I'm gonna suggest that you get it and spend the extra premium to get it with the plug-and play finish level. And that's gonna give you what you ultimately need to get the best flight performance. Now, that also means you're gonna have a little bit more effort and a few more dollars tied up in it. And that's probably okay, because here's the thing, I'm gonna tell you this thing is more beautiful than some very recent offerings. I'm gonna say more beautiful because it's got a more beautiful 4-bladed prop. It's got a really good power envelope. I mean, it's got tons of power. And I gotta say, it's capable. I can tell, I can feel it, but you see that, that postulating up and down, I was gonna say porpoising. That is because I have no expo. And this transmitter is frankly a cheap, crappy transmitter. You get a transmitter and a receiver for like the price of an AR630. And that is available from our friends at FMS, okay? So obviously this is an FMS product that's made by Arrows. It's branded by Arrows, rather. And so of course they want us to talk about like an Arrows product, but we all know it's FMS. So we're gonna talk about it like it is in real life, because that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC, the full truth, nothing but the truth. So help us God. One hand on the Bible.
And then I think the other thing is then this isn't a beginner plane.
Auto leveling, yep. Definitely not. Now, auto leveling will help make it more so, because as you let go of the sticks, it's going to automatically level.
Yep.
But I just want to talk about this for a minute. Auto leveling makes the plane look like a wonk job. I don't even know. And even with safe, you're going to have the same propensities, but I just feel like safe does a better job of helping the plane not look like it's, how do I say it? I can't say the word I want to say. Okay. Mentally challenged.
Oh.
I just went through the hole where the cherry used to be. Oh yeah! So, what are the very, very positive things about this? Beautiful
Gorgeous.
scale landing gear, flexible applications, and that you can hand launch. Some drawbacks. This thing is gonna get beat to death when you do hand launch, and that's because the auto leveling is making it a little bit less jank today because of the wind. Oh, and by the way, limited bank angles are that up, that down, so that up, and then that right, that left. And you basically can't stall the thing, even in the wind, provided you aren't out of power and doing those same stupid maneuvers. But it looks like a slip, like I'm, woo! Oh, geez, we don't have planes attack us like that very often, but that one just about got us. So if you guys are brand new to RC, we try doing a lot of stuff for the camera that you may not be able to get away with at your field. Because this is a private field, we can do that. We set the stage for the set of rules, and we are both involved in the flight demonstration. So we are allowed to fly within and around ourselves. But my suggestion is, if you're brand new to the hobby and you're gonna start with a plane like this, just don't.
Yeah.
It is not a good idea. Okay, going back to stabilized mode so I can flip upside down. And obviously in stabilized mode, you can go any direction you want, and you can do it just about as quick as the plane is capable. But I'm gonna tell you this, coordinating turns, elevator function, all that stuff is way too touchy, and there's a way to fix it if you don't wanna get an AR630. I'm gonna tell you what it is, and that is gonna be, take each of the surfaces in question, elevator namely, move to a different hole on either the control horn of the servo, which is in the fuse, or wait, it's on the tail, isn't it? It's on the tail on the elevator.
It is.
And just move it to one more hole inside. That will dampen the rates, okay? Now, the thing that's bad about that is then when you want to jank it, see, that was like 40 or 30% on the elevator, and look how fast it turned. You don't need more than that, guys. I mean, it's incredibly windy, by the way. Let's just show these guys. Look at the flight envelope. Whoa. You guys see that? I want that thing twice as slow as a P-51. You want to know why? Because I have to ultimately land this thing, and I just about bit it. Guys, I'm not a bad pilot. I promise you, I'm really not. I'm not as, holy cow.
Oh.
Well, I guess it's low. You want to just kind of work with me here? Yeah, it's dead.
Oh, dead.
Yep.
Okay.
There's our first landing. Okay, so we have a voltage alarm. We got 0 warning. That was from 100%. What are we at for time?
9 minutes and 10 seconds.
So one of my most important details I wanted to discuss with you on this plane is this thing is capable of belly landing, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna get the chance to belly land it, because if the elevator is so loosey-goose that it slams you into the ground, it's gonna be in 5 pieces, okay? Look at this, that's a crappy landing. Why is it crappy?
Well, because it's on the septic lid and not
oh
on the
my
runway.
goodness, talk about pun-tastic.
How is it that we got 0 warning on that? It's like dead.
You hear it?
Yeah.
That's the ESC.
Yeah.
So we went to low voltage cutoff. Okay, well, we all learned something today. Don't trust a low voltage cutoff.
Yeah.
Whoa, 9.52. We're at 2.88. It went from 0 to hero in a hurry. Holy cow. Holy cow. 3.22 on the second cell. So yeah, this one's dead. Oh no, I dipped my tip. So the other thing you're gonna run into with this particular airplane is that the landing gear will rip out on you, okay? So let's talk about the positives. The thing is gorgeous. Look, I didn't even land and I still ripped out my landing gear, okay? This plane, and we're gonna show you our maiden flight. We're very annoyed because we're rushed. We got a second opportunity to fly and it's still a terrible opportunity. We hate rushing these things because we feel like these planes are worth more. And so when we tell you that, sometimes people hear, well, quit complaining, you know, free plane, blah, 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 whatever. There ain't no free planes for us, trust us. And you'd have to live our life to understand it. At the end of the day, I don't need another 850 millimeter P-51, but I know a lot of you guys really, really want one, okay? One of our first P-51s we did was a 750 millimeter Warbird from Volantex. This is that plane, bigger, okay?
Yeah.
Now, here's the big difference. You couldn't tear out the Vector and put in your own receiver, which is parked back here, the one that comes with it, okay? You couldn't tear that out in a matter of probably 10, 15 minutes, swap it out, go as far as adding flaps with 2 extra servos, and make this thing just as good flying as the 1.2 meter, okay? Because that thing was never gonna be as good. This thing can be made to be very good, but it has to be made that way. Meaning you have to buy it understanding, man, this thing was just all over the place. You have to buy it understanding that there's gonna be a little effort to get it to fly the way your expectations are set up. And I say yours because I am talking to people that know how to fly P-51s. Sure, in dead calm, you could probably bring it in. You're not gonna grease the landings with this thing. I'm telling you, this FlySky transmitter, I mean, I'm glad that they have an offering for people that have less cash on hand, but I'm gonna tell you what, this thing needs expo so bad. It needs like 50% expo on the elevator and it'll be good. Now hold. Check this out. The good news is, again, like I said, it can be fixed. Move that one hole in, instead of being on the third hole, on the second hole, this thing would be a different plane. Say goodbye to porpoising, say goodbye to over controllability, say hello to way better. And I'm telling you, moving one hole in will make a huge improvement in flight characteristics in the wind or the calm, okay? Also, I gotta say, this plane, broken landing gear, popped out.
Both of them are
Both of them are broke out. That, I mean, admittedly, I landed on a really rock hard spot of the ground. And then that was because I ran out of battery. So that's, you know, idiotic on my part. And then look, there's plastic overlapping here. What the heck? How do you get that back in? You see that?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna get that back in. I'll have to pop it back in. But either way, my whole point is this. When we see a plane that comes up in competition one day after another competitive offering, let's just be frank, okay? We talk about this a little bit in the Unbox Build radio setup. We like FMS, we like Horizon, we like Arrows. They used to all be made by FMS in the Warbird category. They've been very good for a long time. Then politics happened, and I'm not talking about presidential candidates. I'm talking about politics. Business politics, okay? We don't care which company makes what plane. We just want them to be good, okay? We answer to you and not to these guys. Even though we care about these guys and we want them to find success, we are not gonna give them free passes, okay? That means that when a plane comes out and it's more beautiful than a competitive offering that was released just a few hours ago, because of some whatever's going on, okay, whether it's a pissing match or everybody's chasing the same dollar, we get it, it's business. We want you guys as buyers, as the end users, to understand that within RC, there's gonna be truth in RC, and that's gonna come from Brian Phillips RC, okay? Because we love this hobby too much to let a little pissing match get in the way of you and having an awesome RC experience, okay? This is a great plane, but you have to put the keys in and you have to turn it, and then you have to wiggle it just right. and pull the door and then be like, hey, which key is it? And then you have to take the key out, then you have to put the other key in that looks just like it, and then wiggle it just right, and then pop the door. And you'll get it. And I'm a little bit animated because the truth is, I'm annoyed that after all these years and all the stuff that they cram into this 5-gallon bucket, it's 10 gallons of crap in a 5-gallon bucket here. Why can't we go all the way to the finish line? They know how to do it. So my complaint is not the fact that this is an absolutely beautiful lollipop, okay? My complaint is not that this looks a million times better than the competitive offering. This 4-blade prop, you gotta admit it, guys. I know you're watching. I know you're gonna hurt when you see these LEDs that are better. And you're gonna hurt when you realize that the inboard flap portion is perfect for cutting out and putting your own servos in here. And that this thing is gonna belly land just about as good. And we have more beautiful ordnance, in this case drop tanks, no bombs or anything like that, but we do have beautiful guns still. And the paint job is flawless, and the CG's marked. And all these good things are so good. And yet you gotta be a freaking expert pilot to fly it, even with auto leveling. And I am not an expert pilot. I know some of you are like, yeah, you are, Brian, you're an expert. No, I'm not. I'm just an average to below average pilot. I fly off of a tight runway in a tight area in sometimes bad weather, okay? That's really pretty much it. I'm just like you. I'm probably a worse pilot than you. You just think I'm better because you've seen highlight reels from my flying experience. You've seen me crash all over the place too. But I'm gonna tell you what, you know what'd make this better?
An AR-630?
Yeah.
And a better transmitter?
Well, even just Expo. Even just telling us to put that in the other hole. Those two things would make a big improvement. Now, obviously there's subjectivity involved with that, and you have to apply that to the Brian Phillips logic and subjectivity meter, and that is very real, okay? I understand that there's gonna be people that disagree with this assessment. You're not necessarily wrong. We are into the subjectivity realm, but I want you guys to understand that you're coming to me because I have 400 of these things, and I've had experience, and I've had small ones that do way better, AKA ultra micros. Why do the ultra micros fly so good? Okay. Also I don't think they're made by FMS. But the 1.2 is, and by the way, I'm gonna tell you, if you want this experience squared, this experience, well, not just squared, it'd be so much better, 10 times better, to the 10th power. Just spend a couple $100 and get the 1.2. You will love it. The June 9 is currently available, right?
Yeah, I think that's
no, Cripes Almighty.
Oh yeah, it's the current livery.
The Cripes Almighty. If you love this livery, I mean, get it, it's beautiful, it's a thing to look at. You fly it a couple of times, you'll be fine. Just do it in calm. And you can even get it as a ready to fly if you wish. But I just say get a plug and fly and you'll enjoy the experience, okay? And you can go to all the rest of the RC influencers to say, it's the cheapest, best, and you know they will. They're gonna say, oh, this is the best for beginners, except that it's totally not.
If anybody tells you that,
you will fail.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say the same thing. When we did the 750 millimeter from Volantix, we broke off the gear every time. This one has pretty stout gear, and yet you're still gonna have trouble because it is hard to land this thing.
And the wheels are rock hard. Like,
oh yeah, diamond, you could sharpen. Be careful with your wife's wedding ring. You don't wanna accidentally sharpen her diamond with these wheels. I always use that example, I know. This doesn't come off either, not easily, but it is beautiful. And I gotta say, man, they hit it out of the park on looks. The thing is sturdy, EPO 40, whatever that means. It's actually really, and I did use CA in our unbox build radio setup because my pitot tube or whatever the heck this thing is was loose, so we re-glued it and I showed that it didn't burn, it didn't melt.
Yep.
Yeah, because we used regular, right?
We did use regular, not
yeah,
fancy.
because we did that as an example to see if it worked.
But if you don't have the whole package.
Yeah, it's kind of like just, you know, hey, oh man, I want to do an analogy that's so off color. I can't do it right here. It's just not family friendly.
Better analogy.
But the truth is, this is just so close to the finish line that it just infuriates me from an RC influencer and from an RC enthusiast standpoint.
Well,
is why can't we just get it all the way there? Because it's right there. It's kind of like when we get these Volantic's 500 millimeter warbirds that are considerably smaller, like a third the size, okay? And they fly so good, but they're just not quite there.
I feel like this is an example of making somebody be a one and done, because they're going to get it and ready to fly.
And because they're cheap,
because it's cheap,
or they're poor, or whatever, or they don't have enough cash this month, or they spent money on their kids' present.
We usually talk about buy a ready to fly the first time or whatever.
Yeah, just see if you like it. But you gotta spend the cash to get this thing flying.
And it has to be the right plane in a ready to fly configuration.
Yep.
You take this out and it flies wonky like that, and you're either going to crash and have a failure,
or if
you're
you
just going to feel like everything flies crappy.
Or if you get the competitive offering from the one released within a few hours and you do it on a DXS. Like, really? No, don't do that.
Right, no.
Just don't do it. You can if you like really need to save the money, but I'm gonna tell you this, at least with the DXS, you could set up Expo and stuff, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
assuming that one will bind to it. It should.
I think it does. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. We're not here to talk about the other planes, guys. And that's the thing. They don't like it when we do that, and I don't really care. Because we answer to you, and we want you guys to be buying what you love. And we don't want a bunch of cancel ordered for the affiliates that we work with. We do make small commissions when you buy these. So guys, it is completely counterintuitive for us to tell you anything bad about anything we ever review. Right. Which is why, if you're connecting the dots, all of our competitors will say that everything is the best thing that's ever been made. We don't care if you buy this one. You know who does? They do. And that's okay, and they want to work with us. And they're like, oh, Brian, don't say it. Well, we're gonna say it. The truth is, this thing flies. It does okay. You have to be a good pilot. And I'm saying a pilot that doesn't fly with the stabilizer good, okay? I'd fly with the stabilizer all the time. This has a stabilizer. It's not enough, not for wind. So now, what irritates us as just influencers and not enthusiasts is like, hey, we got a tight deadline and we want to release it right here. It's just a terrible time and the weather's terrible and it's, Iowa in fall. For us, it's very, very, very windy all the time. Mm-hmm. Once it calms down, it will be 30 below. Right. Because I don't know if it's trade winds or what. But the idea is, if this thing was in dead calm, I think it would look beautiful. Okay? So if you're gonna go out and Maiden your plane in crazy wind, you're gonna tend to have a worse experience. Okay? So you have to take that into consideration with my thoughts. But my thoughts are not wrong. When you get it, as we're ready to fly, you'll be like, holy cow, that thing is pitch sensitive. It's like it's tail heavy, but it's not. Just to prove it, here's the CG as it flies, okay? You've got the CG mark there. I think my battery shifted when I crashed. Oh, my battery's out of it. That's why it's so tail heavy. I was gonna say it's very tail heavy. I can't prove it to you. But anyway, my battery was loaded on the tray and that thing would have been nose heavy slightly, okay? Because I got it pushed all the way forward. And 1300 3S, it is included. So, what are the advantages of the ready to fly? You buy it, you get all the stuff, you still tear it out, you put it in another plane that doesn't necessarily demand that level of enthusiastic amounts of expo, and you can have a good experience with that other plane. But you got to put something that's a little more sophisticated that's going to get the job done. Then you have to know how to set it up, which is why you're on Brian Phillips RC. We will teach you how to set it up. And you could probably follow any other plug and fly that we've done that's 4-channel, okay? This thing just doesn't have flaps yet, which you'd be adding if you're going to go through that trouble. Because this thing with the wider flight envelope, elevator correction, AR 630, this thing would be very good. It would be like a 90% plane. Why 90 instead of a 95 or 100? Because there's fixed gear, okay? But you're gonna tend to have fixed gear on this size class, okay? So first manufacturer to come up with retracts on small planes that work and don't break immediately gets 2 gold stars, which is worth nothing retail value, but that's okay. We'll still say how good it is.
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully we covered all the important information. We're gonna throw in at the end our very pissed off flight in the high wind because it's still terrible conditions, but we do want the best for our audience. We think of you like our giant audience of like children that are older than us. It helps support us financially. So it's totally backward. Anyway, but we really do care about our audience because at the end of the day, You know how easy it is to come on YouTube and just lie through your teeth? It is not hard. It is easy. Oh yeah, that's the best thing ever. Oh yeah, and then we're gonna clip out all the bad stuff. No, we're gonna show you the bad stuff so you can make a holistic, totally inclusive decision on whether or not this plane is for you, okay? And we try to do that for all the manufacturers, exactly the same. Every once in a while, we're maybe a little bit more fired up than other times, but we gotta say this, Arrows makes some good planes, and it's still made by FMS. We have nothing against FMS or any competitors that are in piston matches with them. But I'm gonna tell you this right now. The other P-51 that was made by a different company. Okay, the other one, the competitive one. It was pretty good, but there's still issues, okay? Namely, two-bladed prop. This thing is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
I hope they take note. LEDs, like really, we need LEDs. We need them. They really, it's an expectation. It's bigger than this, okay? So, fixed gear. I can take or leave the beautiful drop tanks, but they are well done. So if you're gonna do them well done. Yeah. Tires, come on FMS, what are you thinking? I understand you gotta work through 10 million of these rock hard diamond sharpened tires, but when you get through that batch, please give us something a little bit softer. It doesn't even need to be like super squishy soft that's gonna get destroyed on 3 flights, but I'd rather have them destroyed in a few flights than not have a plane because it tips over and breaks and all this. Not everybody is flying from grass, and this thing is gonna struggle in grass. It's gonna wanna tip over. And by the way, plenty of rudder authority for P factor on takeoff, but I did a pretty bad job on this flight of demonstrating that it was there and it's available, okay? So that's huge, by the way, on a P-51. So, like I said, with all my complaints, this plane is probably still like an 85 or an 80%, and it could be better. What irritates me is that it's so close to being perfect, and yet it's not. And I don't know why. I don't know if they rush it to the floor, like, hey, we got to get this out so we can sell it before Christmas. We got to try to beat the competitor. I don't know what their rationalization is for not getting over the finish line. And that is what irritates me, because you can't expect your customers to make it great.
Right.
Okay? This is not Dynam. Have I pissed everybody off yet?
Probably, we're getting close.
Should we throw in any other manufacturers under the bus? Okay. All right, guys, that's why you're here on Brian Phillips RC, because we give you the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. And we throw a caution to the wind with our relationships that we do actually value, and we do want these manufacturers to not fail.
Yeah.
We don't want them to fall flat on their face. That doesn't mean that I am saying this lollipop is a piece of poop. It is not. It is very good. It's just not very good enough. It needs to be more gooder.
More gooder.
Yeah, right away. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Make it more gooder. Okay. All right, we're going to show you our other more angry flight. Stay tuned. Enjoy. Come back for more. Oh, and if you want to see the Unbox Build Radio setup, don't mind the sun was playing tricks on you. When you watch it, make sure you comment if you know what I'm talking about. The Unbox Build Radio setup will be ready right now. If you do want to buy this plane, and I'm suggesting you do, we are going to list AR630. We're going to list Smart Packs 1300 3S, and we're going to list the transmitters of your choice. NX7E now has 14 channels. You should be able to do that and a 630 and have an amazing experience. But if you know your balls deep, just do the NX10. Quit cutting the corners.
Yeah.
It's more money. You're gonna drop $1,000 getting in the hobby. You're gonna have a charger, you're gonna have a few batteries, you're gonna have a plane, you're gonna have a voltmeter, or not a voltmeter, but a
XPC battery
checker. Battery checker is like $50 or something. You get all that crap set up, you're $1,000 in the hole, and your wife is like, I'm gonna leave you if you do this again. And you're like, don't look outside, not now, it's UPS or FedEx or DHL. And then this plane will show up at your doorstep. And you can make your poop great again. All right, stay tuned. So much more from Brian Phillips. Oh, wait, there's more. If you want to support us, you can also do Patreon, PayPal, either one. Patreon's monthly support, PayPal's one-time donations. And then you can also do members here on YouTube, and super thanks are always appreciated. But really, at the end of the day, if you love this or another plane, check out BrianPhillipsRC.com or BPRC.me. Same place, short link, BP, as in Brian Phillips, RC.me. That's gonna get you the same place. You can compare and contrast. And then maybe you can go back and see that crappy Volantic 750. But I'm gonna tell you this, you probably don't want it.
Yeah, you
but
don't
they're
want
probably
that
on like V17,000.
I don't know if they even make that one anymore.
V17,002.
17,000.
Yeah. All right, stay tuned. More poop on the way.